On today's workshop, I'm going to walk you through the easy setup process for the JBL DSP 4086 8-channel amplifier. Hi, I'm Eric Stackley with JBL, and today I'm going to be walking you through the DSP 4086. This is a ultra small footprint Class D amplifier with built-in DSP. It's 40 watts RMS by 8 at 4 ohms, and it can even be used as a line driver to run bigger amplifiers, making it one of the most versatile amps on the market, especially at the price point. Now let's take a look at the simple process of setting up the DSP 4086 in your vehicle. The first thing to get you started is to go to jbl.com and download the latest version of the application software needed to program your DSP 4086. All right, guys, now that you're in your software and we got everything downloaded, once you connect your JBL DSP 4086, the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to go to the top right, if you look where my cursor is here, and you're going to want to go to the input mixer. And basically what this does is this allows you to route the channels to the output channels from the input channels of where you want to go. This may look a little overwhelming, but it's actually extremely simple to operate. If you notice on your left-hand column, you have 6 channels, which are clearly labeled your input channels. Depending on the vehicle and the application, this amp can take RCA input. So if you're running an aftermarket head unit, you would have full range signal through channel 1 through 6 if you have front, rear, and subwoofer pre-out. Or if you're running a factory head unit, this amp also can accept up to 6 channels of high-level input, no matter if the system is amplified or non-amplified. So basically, in certain vehicles, you guys probably know this, some do, some do not all signal is full range. So what this gives you the ability to do is, let's say, for example, your vehicle channel 3 and 4 are front door mid-bass drivers. So they actually filter out your high frequency. You're able to go through the application on channel 3, which would be, we could say that would be your front left mid-bass driver, and we could choose where we want that bass to go, just like this. So channel 3 and 1, if we're getting high frequency here and low frequency here, we can say channel 1 output speaker needs to receive both of these in the case you are running a full range speaker. So basically what this allows you to do is sum the proper channels that you need to be able to get full range signal to the speakers that need it. Or in other applications, if you want to run a full active setup, you could simply turn channel 3 off, make channel 1 your front left tweeter, ran active, and since our front left channel 1 input is high pass factory, then that would be okay to leave this here. That's basically a sum up of how input mixing works. You can play with this on the application without having the amp connected, as I'm doing here. If you notice, it'll say disconnected in this top left corner. But this is the first step you want to do, is make sure we got the right inputs going to the right outputs. The next step we want to do once we get our input mixing fixed is we want to go set up our crossover points, which is extremely important in an active setup to make sure the right frequencies are going to the right size speakers. Now, there's a few different ways you can do this. If you look in the middle of the screen, there's a high pass, a low pass that are both off, or I could turn one or the other on, or both to create a band pass filter for a mid-range. Now, what I really like about the DSP 4086 is that if I'm unsure of the frequency for, say, my tweeters, we make it real simple to go to the left side of your screen, channel 1 and 2, let's say that's our front tweeters, and simply choose from the drop-down menu, front left tweeter. And when I do that, you'll notice that automatically it changes our high pass filter to 5K. Now, some higher end tweeters, you could simply go in here and change it to 3800, depending on the tweeter you're operating. Always recommend checking with your manufacturer to see operating frequency for specific speakers, depending on if you're using ours or someone else's. But this feature is really overlooked. I mean, it's just very simple to go in here and say front left tweeter, front right tweeter. And so I could simply, let me show you here, front left, front right tweeters. Now you'll notice our tweeters are automatically crossed over from 5K to 20K. Very, very simple. Then I could go to channel 3 and 4. And maybe channel 3 and 4 are mid-ranges because we're going to run an active setup. So we would say front left mid-range. And what you'll notice is now you automatically have 5,000 hertz and 800, a very common bandpass crossover for your average mid-range. Again, you're able to go in here and customize this, but for a quick listening test, it doesn't get any easier than this. You set these base frequencies and then you can easily change them. Now, again, so now we have our tweeters, our mid-ranges, and then we're going to go to our woofers and our doors. Again, you'll notice bandpass crossovers at 200 to 800. Maybe in your situation, you've got 6x9s in the front doors, right? And we're going to play these maybe a lot lower than what maybe somebody with 5 1/4s would play. It's super simple. You simply go in here and let's put these at 85. It's that simple. Also, you'll notice there is a link that looks like a little chain right here where my cursor is. What's really unique about that is that allows you to link pairs of speakers so that you only have to set up the crossover point one time. So for example, if I turned linked on channel 5 and 6, and I simply wanted to say 50 hertz, I no longer have to do that for these channels independently. I can do it one time. So that's how we set up our crossover points. JBL makes it as easy as anything out there on the market to set up your crossover points, and it takes the guesswork out of proper crossover points for your average speakers. Next thing we're going to talk about is time alignment, one of the most underrated and overlooked steps to properly setting up your system, especially in a car. So the reason time alignment is so important, unlike your living room where you can simply adjust your seat position, adjust your speaker location, and even adjust your depth, in a car, we're more or less stuck in the driver's seat. So what we do is we give you the ability to time align all your speakers to your preferred listening position, whether that be driver's seat, center rear seat, or maybe even you just want to wow a passenger. So the way that we do that is we simply take a tape measure and we measure the location of every speaker to the listening position, which in this case, let's say it's going to be the driver's seat, which is my preferred listening position as I'm normally driving. If you notice up here, you have 10 separate savable, writable settings. So for instance, you could take all your measurements for a driver's seat listening position to number 1. Then, if you really wanted to wow a passenger, you could do the same thing for a passenger seat and save that to position 2. And the way we do that is we go over here and we go to our delay. You have milliseconds, centimeters, and inches. So whether you're on the metric system or imperial, you can simply choose centimeters or inches and input your measurements. Now, once you choose inches, you would go to your front left tweeter for say, and for our driver's seat position, I would say 39, 38 would probably be pretty average for most vehicles. For a passenger tweeter, clearly that's on the other side of the vehicle, you're going to see something more like 57. Depends on the vehicle. Truck, there's going to be a difference here. So the easiest way to do that is, again, take your microphone or an RTA, or even if you don't have an RTA, measure the distance from your ear, from your headrest, and then take a center position say right at your nose, and then measure directly to each speaker, write them down, or have the application open and enter these measurements in the computer as you're taking the measurements. Once you do all that, simply walk over here, hit write. You're going to get this to pull up, and now we're going to save it, and we can even set a name. So we'll be able to go in here and go driver. Once done, click OK, and now all that data is saved for your driver's seat. It's that simple, and that's how we time align our vehicle. For our next step, once our crossover points are set, all our channels are routed, and we're time aligned, we want to hop into levels. Now, this requires possibly some listening, but also an RTA, if you have one handy, would be a great way to get our levels set. Setting levels with the DSP 4086 has never been easier. If you look to the left side of your screen, you see our tweeters, our mid-ranges, our front and left woofers, and then let's say in this scenario, we're going to take 7 and 8 and make this our woofers. So in most setups, when you have a DSP 4086, there's going to be multiple configurations. And this is why level setting is so important. So one thing I didn't talk about is the 4086 is an absolute weapon of a sound processor, but it's also a great 8-channel amp that gives you 40 watts RMS at 4 ohms and 60 watts RMS at 2 ohms. So you can run your entire system just off of a 4086. But for those that want more, as most of us do, let's say you want to run a 12-inch sub. Clearly, 40 watts RMS on channel 7 and 8 won't quite do the job. So we want a bigger amplifier. So let's say we use a JBL Club 600 on a single 12 or even a Club 1000. We simply take channel 7 and 8 and run those directly into a secondary amplifier. This can also be done, say, through channel 3 and 6. And what you could do in a similar setup is take 1 and 2 straight to your tweeters using the 4086, then run a larger 4-channel on 3 through 6, and then a mono block on 7 and 8. So it's just endless flexibility of how you can operate this. But back to levels, and this is why I just kind of wanted to talk about other amplifiers. Let's say we got a huge bass amplifier on our 12-inch sub. Well, now we may need to cut or boost, simply done right here, our levels on channel 7 and 8 to make sure we don't have too much bass or too less, depending on your personal preference. Again, you can use the link button here to link channels and adjust those levels at the same time, which is a great way to adjust faster, but also make sure things are paired and they're exact just by simply clicking the link. Another feature when it comes to levels is the 4086 includes a very nice bass control knob that you can mount in the dash or in the center console, so you have a quick on-the-fly adjustment of your sub output using that level control. Again, if you're running an active front 3-way set, you may notice that your mid-ranges need to be turned up some to match with your tweeters, or vice versa. Or maybe you like a lot of mid-bass up front, so we really want to crank up the mid-bass. This just gives you endless flexibility, whether you're using the 4086 standalone or you're running it as a line driver into other amplifiers. Again, every time you make these changes and you get that reference point, always remember to go click on write, save that profile. You can save over 1, or if you want to save it in 2 through 10, you're welcome to do that as well. So I could say driver, step 4, or just driver 4, version 4, easily change it to whatever I want to name it, just so you know what it is. And that's how we adjust our levels on the DSP 4086. One of the most important critical steps for overcoming challenges in your vehicle is proper equalization. With the JBL DSP 4086, you have multiple options of how you want to EQ. So for this demonstration, I'm going to take channel 1 and go full range, as well as channel 2. Let's go full range here. Here we go. So this gives us a flat look at our EQ. Of course, we have our frequencies with our crossovers, which we've already set. But just for the look, I wanted you to see how the layout is. Again, we make this super simple. You can either use a 31 band graphic EQ, or you can go to the right side of your screen, click on your EQ, and change it to a parametric. So now you have a very traditional parametric EQ with a gain adjustment here. Most of the time when we're EQing, we're pulling down and not up. We can select a frequency, and if you look at the bottom of the screen, you're actually seeing the frequency change as I move this left to right, up or down. Also, you can go down here and simply type in a pinpoint frequency that you want to adjust, and you'll notice it move over. So your two squares that you see here in parametric mode, as you slide them in and out, this will adjust your Q, or what's known as the width of the band you're adjusting. Almost think about it, the way I like to think about it is like a sheet. If you took a sheet and grabbed it in a point and pulled it up, then you would see the width change. So you've got multiple ways. You can go parametric or you can go graphic, whatever your preferred method is, and you have all these points of measurement that you can adjust. Now, another great feature is you can go channel 7 and channel 8, and we can now see all of our speakers at one time to make sure all our crossover points are right while we're EQing. So you're seeing everything in real time. So it's very easy to select what speakers you want. If I change these back to tweeters, notice the curve change. So this has given us everything on the screen. Again, it's just a very easy format to be able to EQ and get everything matched and leveled. Again, once we get this done, the most accurate way to EQ your vehicle is with an RTA. What's a real-time analyzer, a microphone at the listening position. It is the only way to go 31 bands and get accurate measurements and be able to record those in real time. And again, we would want to go up and save those measurements. Also, another thing you can do, and we talked about levels in a previous step, is a lot of times if you get some peaks around a crossover point, if you're looking at your RTA in real time, an easy way to pull peaks is to simply turn your level down. And you can move things around, especially if you have a high peak around the crossover point. Again, you could go to these crossover points and simply adjust down like you're seeing here. I mean, it's just a beautiful interface, very easy to operate. The more you play with it, the more comfortable you'll get. And that's why we give you so many setting options. Again, after you do your EQing, make sure you go to the top up here and you want to write over a file. And in this case, we're going to do a test, right? And then a listen test afterwards. So now we've got a setting saved for 2. Data is going to be saved in the DSP. And another great part is even if you disconnect the battery on your vehicle, if you unplug this D and take it out of the vehicle and put it back in, all these settings are saved and stored in your DSP 4086. So you spend an hour, 2 hours sometimes tuning your vehicle, you have a dead battery for whatever reason, or maybe you have to have the car serviced. There's no stress there about losing all these settings and your hard work you put in to tuning your system. And that gets us equalized. One other small thing, I won't necessarily consider this a separate step, but it's something great that we have here. is if you go up to the settings tab, you also have the ability to go to what's called power settings. And this is a great tool to have to be able to change your turn on and turn off timing of your 4086. And by that, to explain it in simple terms, what that means is if we want to delay our 4086 to turning off, let's say 30 seconds after power is disconnected, we can simply go in here and save our turn off time for 30 seconds. That easy. And again, you want to write and save after you do that. So that kind of gives you a runaround of how the DSP software works for a ultra compact amplifier that can be used standalone or as a line driver. And there you have it, guys. That's the DSP 4086. I hope this workshop was informative and showed you an easy way that even a beginner and a novice can begin to use a digital sound processor in your vehicle. For more information, check us out at jbl.com.